everybody. I'm standing today in front of the town meeting house in Hampstead, New Hampshire. What a fascinating building. I mean, just standing here, I just get this amazing just feeling of what life must have been like back in the early time of our settlers. Actually, it would have been the descendants of the Puritans that would have built this. And this building, which as you can see here, take a look, was built in 1745, right? The town itself was incorporated in 49. And what's interesting is that this would have been the largest building in the entire town. And both church and state affairs, pretty much all of the affairs of life of the settlers, would have taken place under this roof. They would meet here regularly for church. They would meet for any other purpose, any town purposes, any disputes, any issues that they had while they were building their homes and settling here would have been, they would have gathered here for those purposes. And notice the front door, which is on the long side of the building. Most of them were built that way because people would have come with their horses and buggies and then they would have just come right in. But later on, as churches wanted to modernize more, they preferred what we know as today in our modern churches, a more typical church entrance, which would be at the long side of the building. And then you would walk down through the pews and the preacher would be at the far end. So some of the meeting houses like this one just built another entrance where the preacher and the people could go in this way. But some of the town halls and meeting houses in New Hampshire and in other places of New England actually picked up the building and rotated it to make the front door face the street. So I want you to take a look at the steeple because this is so fascinating to me. It's such a testament to the fact that church and state were combined at that time. A lot of traffic. They didn't have this traffic back in 1745. Anyway, that steeple that you just saw, that was actually donated by the Congregational Church. And that's kind of how it went back then, because tax money would be filtered into this building, and this building was used for both church and state until around 1819, when the Tolerance Act made it such that tax money could not be used for churches. So what some buildings did, and I believe this is one of them, we can't get inside, they took the balcony section of the church and made it a second floor, and then the church would meet usually upstairs, town meet downstairs, and they'd split the expenses of the two. One more really fascinating thing about that steeple up there, inside the tower is a bell. And that bell was actually made by a descendant of Paul Revere Jr. in Lowell, Massachusetts, I believe. Don't quote me on that, though. Anyway, why am I here? Well, first of all, I just had this desire to get back into this vibration where our spiritual life and our regular life, our day-to-day affairs, are brought more in alignment with one another, brought under the same roof. We have, ever since 1819, when the Tolerance Act was passed, we have been separating the two, right? Church over here, everything else over there. And I think that has hurt us in a lot of ways because God is no longer at the center of our lives. This building would have been at the center of everybody's life in Hampstead at that time. And they didn't have so much of a line drawn between God and their public affairs. God was right in the middle of their public affairs. And I think that we're in a time now where we need that. We need that. Now, if you love Psalm 91 as much as I do, then you're aware of the promises, the most beautiful promises God makes to his people in Psalm 91. It starts off, he who dwells in the secret place of the Most High abides under the shadow of the Almighty. And I think we sometimes just blow over that and we don't realize that it's asking us to dwell in the secret place of the Most High, to abide there, not to just pass through for an hour on Sunday, not just to maybe flip on a YouTube video and then go about our life, It's asking you to dwell there. And if you do dwell there, if you're among those who are aware, spiritually aware enough to dwell there, then all of those beautiful Psalm 91 promises apply to you. And God never, never reneges on a promise. The plague will not come near your dwelling. You will not be afraid of the terrors by night, the arrows that fly by day, the pestilence that stalks in darkness, the destruction that wastes at noonday. 1,000 may fall at your side, 10,000 at your right hand, but it will not come near you. He will give his angels charge over you. They will lift you up in their hands to keep you in all your ways, lest you dash your foot on a stone. You will trample on the serpent and the adder. I mean, my goodness, what other promises could you possibly want in your life? And as I stand here in front of this beautiful, rich piece of preserved history, I say to myself, we need to get back to that. I mean, I know I read the end of the book. I know it's not ever going to be back the way it was then, but in our hearts it can be. We have control over our environment, and we could still again place God at the center of our life, at the center of our finances, at the center of our relationships, at the center of all that we do. The Lord should be at the center of it. And I just needed to share that with you today. When Jesus said in Matthew 17 that if you have faith the size of a mustard seed, you can say to this mountain, move, and it will be moved. And I don't think Jesus was talking so much about the size of your faith, although obviously a mustard seed is a great indicator of how little you actually need. But it's more about the object of your faith. Is your faith in him? Because in the verses right before that one, he says, this faithless generation, like, how much longer do I have to put up with you? So their faith, their unbelief was in him. So I think you need to ask yourself, and I know I've asked myself this over the last couple of years, what is my faith in? Is my faith in my employment? Is my faith in my finances? Is my faith even in my husband or my children? Whatever I place my faith in other than Christ and him crucified is a deviation from true faith, because he is the answer. He is the way, the truth, and the life, right? So I just felt that, it was such a special thing when I researched the history of this building, because it reminded me of how life was so integrated then, and how God was such an integral part. He was that golden thread that was woven throughout the fabric of their communities and the fabric of their lives. And I'm calling out you, brothers and sisters, to restore that in your life. Maybe you won't be meeting at a meeting house. Maybe you'll be meeting in your living room. Maybe it'll just be something that you incorporate into your daily life. But in this hour, I do believe he's calling us to do just that. And I do hope this blesses you. Until we meet again, shalom.